Tell 'em.
Generation 2 looking back,
Yeah.
it's one of those you either love them or hate things for some
Yeah.
people, unfortunately. What's your view?
I don't hate it. We call it the Marmite effect over here, where you either love or you hate Marmite, which is like a, I don't know if you have Marmite over there. It's like a strange yeast-based spread that you put on toast. I like it. Generation 2. I think I don't love it because I don't have the emotional connection to it of growing up with it. I guess the things that I love about G1 that are not necessarily carried over into G2. So, the art style is very different, and the some of the threads and things from G1 aren't carried on, and what have you. So I like it. I understand some people absolutely love it. Whereas I can remember almost everything about G1, I find because I haven't read G2 as much, whenever I do read it again, I'm pleasantly surprised by it because I've forgotten like major incidents in it or character moments and that kind of stuff. So, but I remember when I first got the trade paperbacks, how happy I was that I could continue, for a little bit with those characters and those writers. That writer
wasn't it Furman that did the writing for?
Yeah. Furman was G2. So, and then I know Jeff Senior did a tiny bit of artwork, and I think Wildman did a tiny bit, but it was it Derek Yaniger and Manny Galan, I think, did the art, which is actually great art, but because I wasn't kind of still reading comics in that when that style was the thing, I found it harder to warm to because it wasn't something I was expecting. But it's not that it's not good art. In my head, it's like I have an idea of what Transformers, at the time I had an idea of what it was to me, and it didn't match that. So,
well, I guess what appeals to me about Generation 2 is because that was my on-way ramp to Transformers in the first place. When I was in I watched some of the episodes, and my brother had that VHS I showed you earlier.
Yeah.
Back then in the 90s, you had what you had. And once I got into my teens, I think I got that first issue of Transformers Generation 2.
Yeah.
And
nice.
A couple of years ago, I got this, but I had to get two separate ones to get the
whole thing. Yeah.
So what I love about it is also the Generation 2 logo.
Yeah.
That's just definitely one of the reasons why I love it so much. My next question, your favorite Decepticon and favorite Autobot. If you can pick, or you can pick three of each. I don't have a one favorite.
Yeah, I'm going to have to go three. Autobots, Wheeljack, for many reasons. So one, he's one of the toys I had as a kid, one of the very first toys I had. Two, as well as being half Irish, I'm half Italian. And of course, he's covered in Italian flag colours and products. So I sort of had
that Lancia thing, is that a real thing?
Yeah, Lancia is an Italian car company, and Alitalia is an Italian airline. So I always had a soft spot for him for that reason. I love Optimus Prime. I don't care how boring an answer that is. I loved him as a role model and a hero, and I just think his design is amazing. Obviously, Peter Cullen's voice is amazing.
I was able to stand the Michael Bay version, and the reason why I boycotted the Netflix versions, because they didn't approach Frank Welker, Peter Cullen, Michael Bell, or anybody. And they went with all these unknowns. And like what Frank Welker said in a YouTube video that I saw.
When we grew up in the business, is you just don't do that. We never take over anybody's voice who can't do it themselves. Right. You just don't do it. But
yeah, it's grand theft. Yeah, that's happening now with Netflix.
It's an unwritten rule. I mean, that'd be like replacing Jean-Luc Picard's Patrick Stewart with some lookalike from Saturday Night Live. You don't do
it. I don't know. I mean, I don't know what the decisions were behind. It's very difficult to see something that looks like G1 Megatron that doesn't sound like G1.
Just like with Machinima did for the Prime Wars trilogy.
Yeah.
They didn't use him as Megatron, to my knowledge. They didn't use Paul Eiding as Perceptor. But the only good thing they did was, have Cullen back for some of the time.
Yeah.
And use Judd Nelson as Hot Rod.
Yeah. Yes. Oh, sorry. So Wheeljet Artist Pirate and another Autobot. Okay. Grimlock.
Why you think Grimlock's stupid? Me not stupid. Grimlock's smartest Dinobot of all.
Unfortunately, that's probably true. I just wish all the Dinobots had more sophisticated brains.
Brains? Grimlock know how to bash brains. Maybe bash yours.
So I absolutely love Grimlock. Again, I love his design. I love I think the cartoon version for me was too stupid. I loved his the voice actor. I loved his voice. So and then Decepticons.
Jam that transmission. Rumble frenzy. Ravage.cat. Inject. Operation Interference.
Soundwave. Adore Soundwave. Again, even his original toy was pretty much perfect. I'm going to say Skywarp, just because he was the first Decepticon I ever had, and my brother bought him for me. So I have a very soft spot for that figure. There's no, he's really had no development in the comics or the cartoon. So it's purely my love of just what that figure means to me. So he's, rather than Starscream, he tends to be the one that I buy if I'm going to get a Seeker.
The one that you had, that was the Peace Former, right?
Yes, yeah. Third one, there's lots of really good Decepticons. So no, I'm gonna go with Scorponok. So I really, again, not a figure I owned as a kid, but I loved him in the comics. I love his arc in how he ended in
issue 75.
75. I just thought that whole quiet scene of him, did I do good? Yes, my friend, is just amazing. And to how, even when Prime surrenders to him and he's like there, like partly thinking, I can, this is it. My troops are I've got them. My troops are loyal to me now because I've got this. But then there's also the part of him saying, but like, if Prime's right, I need to take this seriously and not.
Because of Prime's judgment during the Underbase saga.
So one of the covers I did for the Transformers 30th anniversary, I coloured it, Casey colour. But we did a recreation of F-75. So we have Optimus and saying goodbye to Scorponok, and then in the background you've got Unicron killing everything. You probably can't see in this. Whereas there's Galvatron firing his way up on his cannon rocket there, and you've got the ship about to fly into his face and stuff up there. But it's like that's one of the defining moments of the comic for me. And so when Casey and we did 3 covers together, and Casey was like, what are the 3 defining moments sort of for you? I can't remember what exactly, but I said that Ratchet and Megatron being fused together into one horrible thing. I can't remember what the third moment was, but anyway, but he was like, I absolutely wanted to do those 2 as well. And then the third one was the smelting pool, which I wasn't as connected to, but again was very happy to recreate that moment. And again, so getting to look at the smelting pool in Transformers 84 was like, yeah, I've been here before. This is nice.
It was great that they brought back Straxus.
Yes. Who again, I didn't.
One of the things I really loved about Regen 1 and Transformers 84 was you brought back minute characters. Like, for instance, in issue 1, you've got Terra Drive. Ruckus, one of the Throttle Cons or whatever.
Yes.
In issue 80.5, when Soundwave's recruiting them.
Yes.
And Spinister and all the others. And that's one of the things I really love about these 2 series that Furman and you guys brought back into the continuity is you revisit it, do a prequel of it, and you add to the mythos, it's just really amazing. I'm speaking as a Transformers diehard fan here. The IDW multiverse that was created when IDW got the rights after Dreamwave collapsed, that and the relaunch is kind of hard for me to follow. So I'm always glad to have Gen 1. Well,
I think that's the thing with any of the reinterpretations or the reboots or the different series, is that nothing takes away from the original. I kind of I'm a bit like this with Star Trek. There's been some Star Trek that I'm a diehard Star Trek fan, but there is some Star Trek that I really don't like in the more modern day. But it doesn't take away anything from the parts that I love. If somebody else get 1,000,000% enjoyment from the thing that I really don't like, that's fine. As long as no one can take Deep Space Nine away from me. No one can take Next Gen or the original series or any of that away, and I can still enjoy. It's not the same, but I can still enjoy things about the newer stuff. And it's the same with Transformers. There's parts of, I feel blessed to have worked so much on either the continuation or the prequels of the books that I grew up with, because they're the ones I have the most emotional investment. And similarly, I will say that the modern series, I've really enjoyed them. The one thing that's been a problem for me is that the way that I've experienced it a little bit is, let's say issue 16 of whatever is out in the wild, an editor will say, we need someone to do the colours for issue 21. So I get the script for 21 and I do the colours, and I'm there going, so bear in mind, I've now missed 5 issues, assuming I'm actually up to date, because I'm terrible. I've got like a pile of books I haven't read, but let's say I'm up to date. I'm 5 issues behind ahead. So characters have died or events have happened. And when you read a script and color it, you get to know that issue very, very well. So then you finish that book, and then you might not do, because for the mainline book, they're kind of regular artists, colorists doing a lot of those. So they generally only ask me for help if they were behind. So, but what it meant was you then go back and you read issue 16 and you go, I thought this has already been done. And by the time you get back to 21, you're there going, oh yeah. So it takes a lot of the mystery and the surprise out of it, because you already, or the issue that you read, you're really confused by 21 because you don't know what happened 5 issues before. But one thing I'm really looking forward to at some point is, with enough distance between the IDW version 1, is actually being able to go and read it again from the start and see it, because hopefully I've forgotten enough of the events to kind of like be surprised by them again. But I think the wonderful thing about Transformers is it's lasted for so long that I think your favourite thing might be Generation 1, it might be Generation 2, it might be Armada, it might be, Victory, it might be Beast Wars, it might be the IDW verse, it might be More Than Meets the Eye, it might be whatever it might be. It's gone on for so long. Or indeed, you might be more into the toys than the comics. That's Hotspot, favourite character. Again, never really been developed.
Which one?
I just love that he's the leader.
He was the one played by Frank Welker, wasn't he?
I don't know.
Because I know that First Aid was played by Michael Bell.
Yes.
I couldn't stop Swindle from taking the transforming cog. I wanted to, but I blew it.
Everyone knows how you feel about fighting. I'm sure you did your best.
But it doesn't change anything. Metroplex is still a sitting duck for whatever the Decepticons throw at him.
I'm not sure about that. You forget how powerful Metroplex is.
I hope you're right. If Metroplex fell because I refused to fight...
You're a medic, First Aid.
We don't expect you to compromise your beliefs.
So yeah, there's times where I've not necessarily been super into the cartoons that have come out, but I've loved the toys. Or other times I haven't really liked the toy line that's out, but I've loved the comics. I know some people are fed up with everything being G1, but I just feel like the toys for me are so good at the minute, and such good representations, if not the best representations of some of those original guys that I, like Runabout and Run Amok, who I didn't have originally, but loved them. To finally own them is really cool, but also they're so good as toys as well that I'm super happy.
I have a theory as to where all these season 2 guys came from, including Blaster and the like. I think what Simon Furman used in Secrets and Lies, they were all on the Ark as brain modules.
Yeah.
So everything's not going to always be continuity. And what matters is how the readers interpret it.
Yeah, and I think that was, to be honest, one of the biggest challenges with Generation 1 in a way is that so many people have filled in their own continuity in their head in terms of, and Beast Wars in a way, because people have kind of filled in the blanks in their own kind of head canon, and I do that as well. That when something comes out that says, actually, this is how it happened, it can be quite jarring and difficult for people to accept. And I think it's interesting because I was not a fan, particularly at the start of Discovery, Star Trek Discovery, but I never thought, oh, this is not continuity. You know, I didn't refuse to accept that it existed. It was just like, oh, this is not for me. But yeah, it can be difficult sometimes when you're very emotionally connected and invested. You've got, you know, decades of your life invest in something, and you'll join the dots in a certain way. And there are bits like that in not just Regen, but like in Secrets and Lies. And I do tend to feed stuff back to Simon as my duty as Transformers nerd, to sort of say, you know, so when Abominus appears, I said to Simon, like it is never actually said that the first ever combiner is Devastator. It is, however, the first one that we ever see, and that is what people have interpreted to be the first. But if you look at the chronology of Headmasters, the Terracons are on board Scorponok's ship, though you don't see them merge in that. You see them merge later, but it's not like, it doesn't seem like a new ability. So it's like, depending on how your head has knitted those facts together, it's like you might read it and go, well, that's wrong, because Devastator was the first, and they can't possibly have a combiner back then. So it's difficult sometimes to, because you're sort of trying to fight with people's internal thought as to what's right. You know, and they might actually be wrong. Like, you know, with that one, actually people weren't too upset about that, which was good. But it's difficult sometimes, because if you're trying to tell a good story, and particularly when you're filling in the gap, you're trying to find where the holes are. But if people in their own time have made up their own stories that fill in the gap, you're fighting against somebody else's perception, which is really difficult. Whereas with a new continuity, you can just do what you want. You want to make Optimus Prime a rebel, well then that's that continuity. That's that new thing.
What I liked about the Headmasters comic was you actually got to see these guys.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
And I've also got Grotesque right here.
Yes, excellent.
And they've been pretty underserved in the comics. But what's good about the Headmasters animated series is you see them in a couple of episodes. And they also cross over with the Beast Formers.
Oh, okay. Yeah. See, I always feel sad when, particularly in the comics, when a new character is invented, and there are still guys like those who haven't had any development at all. I mean, I would actually love to see, you know, some of those guys, you know, appear, say, in the Beast Wars comic, particularly when you get to like the Transmetal 2 style figures. It's like, what, you know, as it's its own continuity now, it's a new thing. I'd love to see some of those characters given personality. You know, Simon Furman took characters like Thunderwing, who no one knew anything about, and turned him into something great. You know, any of those guys, you know, it's just a shame that, yeah. So I quite like the forgotten characters.
One of my all-time favorites has to be Cliff Jumper, but only when he's played by Casey Kasem.
Loose. They look like Autobots, but are they? It's a Decepticon! After him!
Same thing with Jazz, when he was played by Scatman Crothers.
Yeah.
Where'd that come from? Who cares? I'm more worried about where it's gone. Talk to me, Earth. We got a situation out here. Roger me, Wilco me, anything. Hello, Earth. I'm picking up a face signal.
One thing I want to close out with, Furman, Senior, Wildman, any of the others who've been involved in the original continuity, are they nice?
Yeah, I mean, it's for me, it's really, really strange, because I spent my childhood loving what they did, like dreaming of maybe one day meeting them. I remember going to a convention in Bristol, which is where I used to live in the UK, and Simon Furman and Andrew Wildman were going to be there. The degree to which they would define my life is significant, and I thought to myself, I need to go over and speak to them, but I also need to not make a complete boob out of myself, because I get flustered and anxious and everything else. So I went over and I said to Simon the thing which I said to Simon, you know, I cannot explain to you how much Transformers meant to me. Primarily the comics, primarily what you wrote. I love Bob Budiansky as well, but because of the UK stuff, I just connected with Simon more. I can still remember reading a particular issue of Transformers and being so blown away by the idea and the story and the surprise that it gave me. There was a point in my head where I went, I want to do this. I want to tell stories of my own, and I want I want other people to feel this way about things I've written. And he said to me,
that's the nicest thing you've ever said to me.
And then Andrew, although I'd given up on drawing, and actually I found these the other day. These are drawings that I did when I was probably 14, 15. So I was trying to copy the sort of the pin-up.
That is an awesome Action Master Grimlock.
So that, I mean,
at least I think that's who it is.
Oh, absolutely. Line for line copy of and I did actually, you'll like this thing as your Hot Rod and Rodimus. So I tried to do, I think it was a Lee Sullivan Marvel UK drawing, but I tried to ink it in a basketball style.
That's neat.
But I found those the other day, and I was like, oh, I will put them on Facebook. And I said to Andrew, I used to spend forever like tracing and copying and trying to draw like you drew. And again, Jeff Senior is amazing as well, but I love the humanity in their face. You could really read their emotions from their faces in Wildman stuff.
So you think that they're good people to work with?
They're the best. I mean, I've been to Simon's house. I've stayed at Andrew's house. We've dog sat for him. They went on holiday and we looked after little Eddie Wildman, his dog, for a week. No, Andrew's been so supportive, always generous and kind. He's got a very, very dry sense of humour. Like, he'll say things sometimes, and I think people think that he like doesn't like Transformers or something, but he's just got a very he's very flippant in a way, which when you know him, like, because it's like Transformers, the G1 Transformers that he worked on, I think a lot of people at the time when they were doing it was like, well, it's just a job. But I think it's like you said with the voice actors, but I think as time goes on, you realize what endures, and also when you see how much it means to other people, you realize how much it really does mean overall. Simon's again, very generous, very kind, very thoughtful. He's a great guy to sit in the pub with and just talk about. Jeff Senior, really, really nice guy, very quietly spoken, but just lovely, decent guy. Guido's again lovely guy. He's always very busy. Although I'm half Italian, my ability to speak it can be measured in the tiniest cup possible. So we're somewhat reliant on my ability to speak slowly. Guido's absolute. I don't think I've worked with anyone on Transformers who hasn't actually been really nice, that's
something I'd really hope for.
Yeah, the thing is, it's heartbreaking when if you meet your hero. I know in some ways it's almost unfair to put so much pressure on them to be better than, and everyone can be caught on a bad day. I can't think of anyone who I haven't just been really impressed by. He's been really generous. So yeah, no, they're all great. So I was just going to say, Stephen Baskerville as well is the most gentlemanly person I've ever met. Quite quiet, but incredibly talented, and just also he's one of those people that loves the process. If you colour something of his, he gives like wonderful feedback. Yeah, you feel really happy after you've worked on something with Stephen, because he really appreciates what colour brings to the overall piece. But yeah, I again, they're all people that have really supported me and really gone to bat for me. And again, I feel honoured to have worked with them, and even more honoured to I've ended up knowing them as friends.
I want to say that I feel really honoured to have had the opportunity to speak to you, John Paul.
Thank you very much. It's been very nice to speak to you too.
Yeah.
So thank you for the invite.
Yeah.
The one thing, like with people like James Roberts and Nick Roach and all of the guys like me who've grown up with it and loved it, we're fans first. The line between me and you, in my view, is non-existent. Like I've worked on it and I love it, and I'm privileged to have done that. But I love Transformers conventions because I get to geek out about all the same stuff everybody else is. But also, if I was in a large crowd, I may not necessarily speak to everybody. But when you're at a convention, people come to you. Even if you're shy, it forces you to kind of have a conversation. And again, it's lovely to speak to people. And when I'm at home working for hours on end, and it's late at night, you're on your own, and sometimes it can be difficult to go on forums and look at what people are saying, because often the people on forums are the people who some people appreciate it, some people don't. How they express themselves is not always constructive. But I like at conventions, if someone, people come over and they tell you what it means to them, they also tell you sometimes what's right or wrong, or things they'd like to see more of, or or they can ask. They say, "What? Why did you choose this?" And you can sort of say, "Well," or like with that impactor, that was just a mistake, and I'm quite happy to admit that. But other times it's like, "How come you've done this?" And sometimes it's like, "Oh, I'm pleased you asked because it was this," or so it's nice to have an actual conversation with people and talk about the thing that we have in common, which is
Transformers.
And talking to someone like you is just really fulfilling. It's really awesome, and I extend my friendship to you, John Paul.
Thank you very much. Likewise, it's been very nice speaking to you. I'm pleased we're able to get this synchronized.
What else do you do besides Transformers?
Largely, at the minute, been doing illustrations for Empire magazine, which is a film magazine over here. So Transformers are mainly lots of commissions, to be honest, at the minute. Lots and lots of people asking to have their black and white stuff coloured, Transformers sketches and things like that. So the main thing really that I'm trying to concentrate on, just the pandemic giving me an excuse to do something else, is a creator-owned story that I want to Kickstarter at some point when I've actually finished writing it, which has been in the back of my mind for a good 5 or 6 years at least. But the comics work was so continuous for a while that there was no time to do anything other than stuff people were requesting me for. So at the minute it's like, well, I'm going to do everything I can to do as much work as possible on my own stuff, and hopefully actually get it finished and start publicizing it and try and get some funding for it. So that's really my main thing, specifically in comics at the minute, that I really want to spend a bit of time. The only other bit I'm doing is a book with Andrew Wildman called Oxygen. So the first 2 issues of Oxygen have come out, and he's just started working on issue 3.
Well, I wish you and your family well, John Paul, and
thank you, and to you.
Again, thank you for indulging me with this.
Thank you, and my best to you and yours as well. I hope you're keeping safe.
Thanks.